Work was not always scheduled. People didn't wake up to alarms. They didn't count their lives in blocks of hours. They didn't ask permission from a clock. Work began when it was needed and ended when it was done. Schedules changed that. Once work had a fixed start time, it also had a fixed end time, and everything in between stopped belonging to the worker. People thought they gained stability, regular hours, predictable pay. What they didn't realize was that they were giving something up. Not comfort, not freedom, but control over when their lives actually began. Schedules did not appear because people asked for them. They appeared because systems needed them. Before large organizations, work coordination was simple. Small groups adjusted naturally. People responded to needs as they appeared. But scale broke that logic. Factories brought hundreds of workers into the same space, around the same machines, dependent on the same processes. One person arriving late did not just delay themselves, it delayed everyone connected to that process. This created a new problem. Human time was flexible, machine time was not. Machines needed predictability. Maintenance, output, transport, and supply all depended on synchronized movement. Schedules solved this problem. They allowed managers to plan. They allowed owners to calculate. They allowed systems to run continuously without waiting for human judgment. From the system's perspective, schedules were not control. They were efficiency. And for workers, schedules seemed helpful at first. They promised regular hours, reliable pay, clear expectations. You knew when to arrive. You knew when to leave. You knew what was required. Compared to uncertainty, this felt like progress. Schedules replaced negotiation with certainty. No more arguing about when work started. No more guessing how long it would last. Time became organized. Life became predictable. That promise made schedules easy to accept. What people did not see was that predictability came with a hidden exchange. When work became scheduled, people believed they were trading flexibility for stability. But that was not the real trade. What they gave up was the ability to decide when work truly began and ended. Before schedules, work followed completion. After schedules, work followed the clock. This distinction matters. Completion-based work respects judgment. Time-based work ignores it. Under schedules, starting work no longer required readiness. Ending work no longer required completion. Presence replaced purpose. You could finish early and still not be done. You could be exhausted and still not allowed to stop. Time became the authority. This changed the meaning of effort. Effort was no longer measured by results. It was measured by compliance. Arriving on time mattered more than arriving prepared. Staying until the end mattered more than finishing well. Schedules rewarded obedience over intelligence. This was not accidental. Systems depend on predictability, not judgment. Judgment varies. Schedules do not. Once work followed fixed hours, workers lost control over their natural rhythms. Energy, focus, and recovery became irrelevant. The day was divided externally, not internally. Life became something to fit around work, not something work fit into. This was the real cost, not longer hours, not harder labor, but the loss of ownership over personal time boundaries. When you cannot choose when something begins or ends, you no longer control it. Schedules did more than organize work. They trained behavior. Once time was divided externally, people learned to adapt themselves to the division. They learned to hurry, to wait, to endure. Waiting became normal. waiting for the shift to end, waiting for breaks, waiting for permission to stop. Rest stopped being natural. It became conditional. People did not rest when tired. They rested when allowed. This trained a dangerous habit. People stopped listening to internal signals. Hunger, fatigue, boredom, focus, all became secondary to the schedule. Over time, this discipline moved inward. No one had to enforce it. People began enforcing it themselves. They felt anxiety when idle, guilt when resting, relief when the clock said they were allowed to stop. The schedule became internalized authority. This did not stay at work. Schools adopted the same structure. Children learned early that learning had a start time and an end time. Understanding did not matter. The bell did. Attention became something to endure, not something to follow. This prepared people for scheduled adulthood. By the time they entered work, they already understood the rules. Life would be divided. Meaning would be delayed. Relief would come later. Schedules did not just organize time. They shaped expectations. Once work became scheduled, life stopped feeling continuous. It became segmented. Work time, personal time, recovery time. Each segment had rules. Work time demanded obedience. Personal time felt rushed. Recovery time was never enough. This fragmentation created a permanent sense of incompleteness. People stopped finishing days. They simply exited them. Because work ended by schedule, not completion, there was no natural closure. The mind carried unfinished tasks into supposed rest. This blurred the boundary between work and life. Even when work ended, its structure remained. People measured evenings by how much time was left. Weekends became countdowns. Free time stopped feeling free. It felt temporary. This is why modern life often feels rushed even when nothing urgent is happening. Schedules taught people to live in anticipation, always waiting for the next segment, the next break, the next permission to stop. This was not how humans evolved. Human attention prefers continuity, completion, flow. Schedules replaced flow with interruption, and interruption became normal. When work became scheduled, people gained predictability, but they lost something harder to see. They lost control over when their lives truly began and ended. Schedules did not just organize work, they reorganized identity. They taught people that time belonged elsewhere, that life happened after obligations were met. This structure was not designed to harm people. It was designed to keep systems running. But systems do not feel fatigue. People do. Understanding this does not mean rejecting modern life. It means recognizing that schedules are not neutral. They are tools. And tools shape behavior. Once you see what was given up, you begin to understand why modern life feels divided. Not because people are lazy, not because they lack discipline, but because their time was divided for them.